All right, Miami Dolphins fans. Preseason action is in the book. On Saturday night, the Miami Dolphins fell to the Jacksonville Jaguars 31-18. The game was called in the fourth quarter. I believe there was just over 8 minutes left. Wide receiver Dawood Davis was stretchered off with apparent head neck injury. Obviously, we've got 53-man roster stuff coming up in the very near future, but that's kind of besides the point with him tonight. We are just hoping that first and foremost, biggest takeaway, that everything is okay with Dawood Davis as we continue to monitor that situation. The team did put on social media that he was conscious. He did have movement in all of his extremities. So that is the top takeaway from tonight's game. We're going to talk about more of the top takeaways from tonight's game, and then as we do with these preseason recaps, going to go into some more specific players from the game that we want to talk about. But before I get into the ones that I've got, I do want to hear from you as well. Go ahead, drop your thoughts from the Miami Dolphins preseason finale in the comments. Let's carry on the conversation there. But outside of Dawood Davis, let's go into my first one. I think it's an obvious one. Once again, it's pay the big man, that big man being number 94, Christian Wilkins. I mean, it was visible all night, but the first drive defensively, especially when both team starters were in the game, minus Christian Wilkins, minus Zach Sieler, who didn't play either. That drive, that tape, that film, that everything screamed pay the big man. The Jaguars on the night ran for 130 yards, 3 touchdowns, 26 carries. That averages out to 5 yards per carry. But it was early in the game. It was their top guys. It was Travis Etienne. It was Tank Bigsby. It was Dearness Johnson. All those guys ended up with solid nights, ended up with some good-looking runs for the Jaguars. Now, I guess on maybe the positive note, defensively, Fangio, we weren't throwing anything complex at them. These were all pretty vanilla calls defensively, but we did see a glimpse of what this defense, this run defense specifically, could look like without Christian Wilkins, without Zach Sieler. So we obviously need Christian Wilkins to either A, get paid, which I think we all want, or B, just end that hold in, which is what I kind of expect he will do if he doesn't get paid, but we'll cross that bridge another day. But we definitely can't afford not to have him. We can't afford an injury on the interior defensive line either. Let's go on to takeaway 2. And I wonder if the offensive line is kind of set heading into the week 1 action, obviously that being our next game. Talked about it in the preview video. I had my eyes set on the left guard position. Well, Isaiah Wynn got the entire first half. It was Dan Feeney he got a little bit of reps at center. He took Connor Williams' spot at one point, but then it was him that was next in line to get those reps at left guard. And then from there, the reps went to Ryan Hayes. Ryan Hayes was actually in at left guard when the game ended midway about through the fourth quarter. Like I said, that was my initial watch. I am recording this Saturday night right after the game. I'd have to go back and double check, but I feel pretty confident that whenever I was looking, which was pretty damn often, I guess is the right word there, I did not see Liam Eichenberg. So if that is the case, and if we're kind of reading between the lines here, that would mean that starting left tackle to right tackle probably looks like Teron Armstead, if he is good to go with week 1. If not, it'll be Kendall Lamb. Then you got Isaiah Wynn, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, Austin Jackson. That's what your starting line would look like. And like I said, there was a tweet that someone put out, I forgot who it was, that said they actually ran into Teron Armstead earlier on Saturday. Didn't give many details, but said Teron Armstead still plans on being back for week 1. So he'd be your guy. Obviously, we'll get to left guard, but at center, you had Connor Williams, who it came to fruition again. Had just a drive-killing high snap on that first drive. Tua hits Tyreek on just a beautiful play, catch and run for Tyreek. Next play, ball sails over his head. We lose 100 yards, and the drive is essentially over at that point. Moving on, right guard, you got Hunt, who's had a couple of ups and downs throughout this training camp and this preseason so far. Hopefully, he just returns to his usual self, and we can be set there. And then you got Austin Jackson, who seems to be fine. Like, he's not having these like crazy alarming plays. He just kind of seems to have one bad play sprinkled in here or there that can just kind of kill a play. But overall, not a terrible performance by Austin Jackson. I feel better about Austin Jackson than I imagined I would heading into the season. But if this is indeed the starting offensive line for the Dolphins, it's not what Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel had in mind a couple of months ago. And it would also mean that the Liam Eichenberg experience and the experiment, I should say, in the pick in general would just kind of appear to be a failure. Something to keep an eye on. Maybe that injury for Liam Eichenberg was the thing that was keeping him out. But when the Dolphins when they released their tweet of guys they didn't expect to play, Liam Eichenberg was not on that. So it makes me think maybe we could look a little bit deeper into this one. Let's go into one more takeaway. And that is running back Chris Brooks, is he destined to make this 53-man roster? Because, man, he has just shown time and time again that he is capable of toting the rock and making plays when his number is called. If you go back before preseason action, he had that training camp run that ended the day. The offense just went crazy, a 95-yard touchdown in camp. And then it's just kind of been his show ever since. He went 6 carries, 33 yards, 2 touchdowns tonight. Showed absolute power once again on that first touchdown. Had great blocking on the second run. Finishes the preseason with 22 carries, 104 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Now, I'm going to say this next thing knowing that we haven't seen Jeff Wilson so far in preseason. But Chris Brooks looks like the hardest, most powerful runner that this team has. He runs. He's a big-time effort runner. It takes multiple guys to tackle him, to bring him down. The power that he provides is clearly there. So now that question becomes, is he worthy of a spot on that initial 53-man roster? Because I honestly think that the nice thing to be able to do, what I thought maybe even going into last week we could potentially do, just make him a practice squad guy, stash him away on the practice squad. You already got Mostert, you got Wilson, Ahmed, Devon Achane. Who knows what's going to happen with Myles Gaskin? And who the hell knows what's going to happen with Jonathan Taylor? But the issue, as you likely know, is when you put the guy on the practice squad is that they can be poached by other teams if they're going to put him on their active roster. So while you got the position of running back is fairly deep in the NFL the way it is, but Brooks's tape and production that he's put out there so far this offseason is real good. So you do run the risk of losing him if you put him on the practice squad. We're going to talk more about running backs in general in my 53-man roster prediction video, but this is definitely something to monitor as well. I'm going to end here with just some of my random observations from the game as well. It was nice to see Tua and the ones bounce back with that second drive that netted a field goal after that high snap from Connor Williams on the first drive. I did think that Tua maybe looked a little bit skittish on the third down play when he had to maneuver around the pocket, ended up throwing short of the goal line to Robbie Chosen there. Hopefully that's me just overthinking it in the moment, but he did look maybe not quite his usual confident self like what we saw in the Ravens game when he had to maneuver in the pocket. He just didn't look quite there yet. So hopefully, like I said, hopefully I'm overthinking that. Skylar Thompson, speaking of quarterbacks, kind of bounced back to reality. Especially compared to last week's game against the Texans. That first interception was just off target, super high, had a wide receiver that was open after a nice kind of improvise on the play, just threw it way too high. And then literally on his next pass attempt, had another interception. However, on that one, I don't want to outright completely blame Skylar for that entire play. The right guard, right tackle combo, I don't know if it was Robert Hunt and Obawehi. I couldn't quite tell who the guys were on that play. Like I said, I've only seen it once. They had a miscommunication, which let a free rusher come in, just completely free reign at Skylar, and Skylar just threw it, ended up being to the wrong guy there. At tight end, so like I said, haven't gone back and rewatched, but I believe it was Julian Hill who was getting reps before both Elijah Higgins and Tanner Connor. So that could mean a couple of things. They could just simply want to see a little bit more of Julian Hill to see if he's worthy of a roster spot, worthy of a practice squad spot, or they could simply just have him higher on the depth chart as well. And I don't personally know the answer to that right now, but we will find out soon enough. Moving on, absolutely loved the move that we saw Jalen Phillips put on his guy that led to a holding penalty on that second drive. That right tackle for the Jaguars never had a chance as soon as Phillips used his speed to cut back inside, got the hold, got the yards lost, which would have been basically a sack anyways. Kader Kohu, I thought, had a textbook pass breakup on that pass to Christian Kirk. He waited for Christian Kirk basically to move his hands up to make the catch, and then Kohu got his hands right in the way perfectly. How you would draw it up, as opposed to the next guy I'm going to talk about, because Noah Igbenogany once again struggled with what he's kind of struggled with since day one of being in the NFL. And that's where he just simply doesn't get his head around in time on plays. And it just leads to numerous completions. And tonight was the big one. It was the long completion down the sideline, Calvin Ridley near the goal line, which sets up a Travis Etienne touchdown. I had a feeling that Noah Igbenogany may make the 53-man roster with Jalen Ramsey out, with Nick Needham remaining on the PUP. I just don't know now, though, because of everything that we've heard in training camp saying that he's made all this progress. He's getting interceptions. He's getting pass breakups. Hasn't really translated to games. So we'll have to see how that one plays out. But, man, what we're seeing, like in games, it's just not translating as to what we're seeing from those training camp reports. I absolutely loved the play when Jalen Twyman and Andrew Van Ginkel both beat their guys and then met on the quarterback on that third down play, which forced a field goal. Another injury of note, Elijah Campbell, he was injured on that special teams play. We got to monitor that because he was, at the very least, a candidate to potentially start, and if not start opposite Javon Holland, at least be in the run for potentially some meaningful snaps. So a guy to check in there. Duke Riley, I thought he had a fantastic tackle right before half on a receiver, kept the receiver in bounds before they could either get out of bounds or clock the ball as the first half ran out. Duke Riley is never the sexy option, but he seems to be like the go-to guy that the coaching staff can trust at linebacker outside of Jerome Baker and David Long. The last one that I've got a feeling on here is both good and bad because Cam Smith, rookie cornerback, kind of had that welcome to the NFL moment, got absolutely hosted to open the second half. He bit on that wide receiver double move, that hesitation move, allowed the 70-yard touchdown. I don't even think the move was all that great. He was literally just trying to be aggressive and make the play. But the good is he did bounce back. He had a third down pass breakup later in the game. But like I said, that is Cam Smith's aggressive nature. And it just came back to bite him this time because it's worked for him in the past. Remember that game against the Falcons? He came off of his guy as the quarterback, I believe, was rolling left, got his hand in and broke that pass up to the guy that he wasn't even initially covering on the play. That's where it worked. Tonight it did it. So you're going to get some good and some bad, especially when it comes to rookie cornerbacks. We know what we're going to get. But those are my takeaways. Sorry, I went a little bit long tonight, but I do want to hear from you. Go ahead, drop your thoughts, your takeaways, everything in the comments. I will be back, like I said earlier, with any potential Jonathan Taylor news. And then my next scheduled video anyway is that 53-man roster prediction video. But those are my thoughts, takeaways from tonight, Dolphins fans. Until next time, fins up.